An undated remnant of a letter signed by Dan Wincup, scheme secretary. You believe that the trustees have influence over how the government uses its 50% share of any guaranteed fund surplus. Our response: the trustees' responsibility is to administer the scheme in line with the scheme rules, which includes the provision to pay the government 50% of any guaranteed fund surplus over 10 years. The trustees have no influence over how the government spends this money or over any other areas of government spending. You believe that because the scheme's members are subject to income tax on their pension, the 50/50 sharing of guaranteed fund surplus is misleading, as the government receives income tax on the members' share of surplus. Our response: the scheme rules are very clear that 50% of any guaranteed fund surplus is transferred to the bonus augmentation fund and the other 50% is transferred to the guarantors fund. The trustees has no influence over government tax policy. Every pensioner in the UK is subject to the same rules regarding income tax on their pension. Further information: I have also enclosed 2 further documents which I believe you may find useful. Firstly, a short summary document which gives some more details about the history of the scheme, the guarantee arrangements set up in 1994 and the actions taken by the trustees since 1994 aimed at improving the position for members. This covers many of the issues that you have raised in the past and raise again in your most recent complaint. Secondly, some further information about the MPS contribution holiday taken by British Coal from the 26th of March, 1989 up to privatization in 1994, which you have questioned in the past and questioned again in your most recent complaint. Conclusions and next steps. Given I do not believe you have raised any issues that the scheme has not already responded to, I am unable to uphold any aspect of your most recent IDRP complaint. As mentioned earlier, I genuinely believe that the best way forwards, assuming you remain dissatisfied, may be for you to contact us. Given the extent of your correspondence with the scheme over the last 16 years, I believe you already have sufficient information to be able to do this without needing to proceed to the second stage of the IDRP. However, if you are not happy with this approach, you can of course still proceed to the second stage of the internal dispute resolution (PROC-DIRC). Your complaint would then be considered by the Trustees' Discretions and Appeals Subcommittee, DASC. DASC's consideration of your complaint will focus on whether I have properly and fully considered your complaint and whether you have received your rights under the rules. If you do wish to take your complaint to the second stage, you should write to me within 6 months of the date of this letter, stating the reasons why you remain dissatisfied with this response. Yours sincerely, Dan Wincup, Scheme Secretary, Department of Energy and Climate Change, Sir William Cash MP, House of Commons, London, SWIAOAA. Dear VTM, Andrea Leadsom MP, Minister of State, Department of Energy and Climate Change, 3 Whitehall Place, London, SWIA2AW. www.gov.uk. Our ref, MC 2015/14937/UF. December 2015. Thank you for your letter dated the 18th of November to Amberard, enclosing correspondence from your constituent Mr. Tom Cristopher of 14 Willow Close, Upper Tean, Staffordshire, ST104DL, regarding the UK miners' pension scheme. I am replying as this matter falls within my portfolio. I apologize for the delay in responding. As I am sure Mr. Cristopher is aware, the government provides a solvency guarantee to the MPS and to its sister scheme, the British Coal Staff Superannuation Scheme, and has done so since the scheme's principal employer, the British Coal Corporation, was privatised in 1994. In exchange for providing theses guarantees, the guarantor receives an equal share to the membership in any periodic valuation surplus. Although the Exchequer has been the beneficiary of substantial sums of money from these schemes over the last 20 years, it must be noted that scheme members have shared equally in the upside gains in the scheme's investments both immediately prior to and in the period since privatization. That has seen members receive substantial, above inflation, increases to pensions throughout a period where government, on behalf of the taxpayer, has borne the vast majority of the downside risk and where members of many other schemes have seen their benefit aspirations disappointed. I do hope this reply is helpful. Best wishes. Andrea Leedsm. Dr. Tony Wright MP, Cannock Chase. House of Commons. London SWIAOAA. Tel, 020-7219-5583/5029 Fax, 020-7219-2665. Email, wright@parliament.uk. The 24th of March, 2005. Mr. T. F. Cristopher. 9 Sandy Lane. Ridgely. Staffs WS15, 2LB. Dear Tom. Hope you thought yesterday was worthwhile. You certainly got a good chunk of ministerial time. I thought the offer to broker a session with Jack and the trustees was an important breakthrough. Sorry I had to dash off, I did not expect it to last so long. All the best. Tony Wright. Mr. T. Cristopher. 9 Sandy Lane. Ridgely. Staffs, Mr. T. Cristopher. 9 Sandy Lane. Ridgely. Staffs. WS15, 2LB. ref.tw/sw.r/c. Dear OM. Dr. Tony Wright MP. Cannock Chase. House of Commons. London SWIAOAA. The 14th of May, 2004. As promised, here is the answer I received yesterday to the parliamentary question I submitted following our recent meeting. I don't think it is at all helpful for us to get involved in petty politicking about a meeting with a minister. As you know, my initial request was turned down, but things move on, even since the recent meeting between the government and the trustees. What is important is to try to get a resolution of this issue, as I trust all of your members will agree. Yours, Dr. Tony Wright MP. Constituency Office. 6 Cowart Crescent, Cannock, Staffs WSIIOAB. Telephone, 01543 467810. Fax, 01543 467811. An undated press cutting, hole discovered in Miners' Fund. Nick Fitzpatrick. A deficit of over £650 million has been discovered in the Mine Workers Pension Scheme, MPS, a fund largely guaranteed by government, but trustees say the taxpayer will not have to fund the shortfall. Retired mine workers' cost of living increases will also continue to be guaranteed at least until the next valuation in 3 years and probably beyond, say the trustees. David Morgan, MPS chief executive, conceded that the government guarantee had allowed the E9.7 BN fund to pursue an investment strategy that took a measured amount of risk to obtain long-term returns. But he did not blame this for the deficit, noting it had been the worst investment climate For half a century recently, he said that far from causing the £659 million deficit, the investment strategy had paid off as members were able to receive bonus payments over the years that had augmented pensions by 20%. He ruled out any adverse consequences for the scheme's advisors or investment strategy changes. A £390 million shortfall in a segment of the fund that is completely guaranteed will be covered by a transfer from a £785 million investment reserve that would otherwise be channeled to government as part of a controversial surplus sharing agreement. The scheme, advised by the government actuary, has a highly complicated structure. Apart from the guaranteed segment with the £390 million deficit, there is also a fund supported by the post-privatization surplus to pay bonuses. This segment has a lesser guarantee and a £169 million deficit. But Morgan said government and trustees have agreed a way forward that ensures members will continue to receive cost of living increases for the time being. Another segment pays the government a share of the post-privatization surplus. This has a £100 million shortfall. Finally, the investment reserve has assets of £785 million. The scheme does not need any injection of new cash from government, Morgan stated. Recently, the scheme removed £4.8 billion worth of assets from Goldman Sachs Asset Management (XAM), after an exclusive post-privatization fund management agreement ended. XAM will continue to be the scheme's main equity investor with the largest portion of funds, 30%. Laverick swamped with most complaints ever. The number of complaints to the Pensions Ombudsman has reached the highest level since the office was established in 1990. In the last financial year, the office received nearly 4,000 complaints. The increase in complaints, up from 2,946 last year to 3,891 this year, occurred particularly in the second half of the financial year, according to the annual report of the Pensions Ombudsman for 2002 to 2003. David Laverick, the Pensions Ombudsman, attributed the increase largely to the high profile of pension issues in the press and broadcasting media during the year. Laverick said the increase in complaints has added to the workload in the office, and he expressed concerns that cases were not being completed as soon as they should. The bare facts are that in 2002-2003 one received 3,891 enquiries and dealt with 3,684. The net result is that, despite a great deal of hard work from my staff and myself, we have been failing to keep up with the incoming tide. Laverick said he expects the position to become even more difficult in the current financial year, and has not been given any additional resources to cope with the work. Earlier this year, Laverick restructured his office following the departure of one of his most senior members of staff, Casework Director Tony King, PW, the 7th of July, 2003. He created an additional team to Laverick, under-resourced, clear out a backlog of cases more than a year old. Laverick said he expects to recruit some short-term employees, but needs additional resources to seriously tackle the workload. In his report, Laverick also stressed the need for greater simplification of Rules governing who can make complaints to him and how such complaints should be dealt with.